Hey everybody, today I want to talk about favorite baits, favorite lures to use in bass fishing. And we all have them. We all have our favorites that, have produced for us over the years and things that we just enjoy fishing more than anything else. And I'm no exception. I have some myself. I try to be pretty versatile as an angler. Sometimes that versatility can hurt you. Sometimes it can help you. But I've got three lures that are really sort of my bread and butter, that if I can get that bite going, if I can figure out places on the water that I'm fishing that they'll bite these things, I can usually do pretty good. So today I want to share with you what my three favorite bass fishing lures are. First of all, my first one would be a flipping type jig. This is a Cumberland Pro Lures AW jig with a Zoom big salty chunk on it. And this is my favorite jig setup for several different reasons. First of all, it's got the turned eye on the AW jig. Head design comes through brush, rock, really good. It's got a short shank hook, which I really like. And, a nice, really sharp round bend 4/0 hook. And the reason I like the Zoom big salty chunk, there's so many different jig trailers out there. You got the curly tails one, you got the straight tails when you got the dog ears, you got like the super chunk Zoom, you got just an endless amount of jig trailers. But I really like this old pork frog style jig trailer on there. When they're on a jig bite and they're wanting a jig and the big fish are wanting a jig, it's like this setup will usually catch more and bigger fish than any jig setup that I've got. And I use a lot of different colors, and I tie my own skirts too, so I can really match the what I think is probably going on in the water clarity more than anything else when I'm on the water. But you can't beat some type of combination of green pumpkin, your dark colors like your black chartreuse, black blue, black and red, that type of stuff, black and purple, which is really good. And then some type of variation of like some brown and green sometimes. And one of the things I'll do is I like to go and, if I can turn over a few rocks and sort of see a few crawfish, I like to get an idea of sort of some of the coloration on it. But normally most crawfish are sort of the same. They got black and green, maybe a little bit of blue sometimes, a little bit of red sometimes, but it's usually that combination of black, green, blue, and red in that combination there. So, but I'm going to say probably half of the time I'm throwing some type of a natural color like the green pumpkin, and then the other half of the time I'm throwing the darker colors if the water's a little bit more stained. But I fish this. My favorite setup to fish it on is a Megabass Oroshi flipping stick, the Alkalies on 25-pound test Seagar Invisex line. I'm not a big fan of fishing a jig on braided line. In fact, the only time I really like to use braid is if I have to, like if I'm flipping mats or if I'm flipping like some super, super heavy cover that's shallow and dirty, then I'll use some braid. But I prefer fluorocarbon when I'm flipping. I just think that not only you get a few more bites, but I like a little bit of stretch in the line when you're close into the fish. So my favorite setup, like I said, 25-pound test. 5/8 ounce AW Cumberland Pro Lures jig, Zoom big salty chunk. Okay, my next favorite bait, and like I said, this is in no particular order. These are just three of my favorites. Is the Megabass Jerkbait, and this, I love jerkbait fishing, and it's just, as far as the bite goes, there's the bite you get on a jerkbait or jig is my two favorite ways to catch a fish, even above top water. I mean, I love seeing, you stop in this 110 and seeing your line jump and setting the hook, and it's a good one. But this jerkbait is absolutely at the top of my list as far as my favorite lure. Megabass makes a lot of different kinds. They make they make several different varieties of the 110s, the 110 plus 1, 110 plus 2, the 110 silent models. Edo Shiners, 110 Magnums, X80s. There's a lot of different varieties, and I use them all, just based upon the time of year. But my setup on the jerkbait, and I'm sure if you all have seen a lot of my videos, everybody knows I use spinning rods all the time. I use the Megabass Whip Snake spinning rod. almost exclusively for my jerkbait. Sometimes I'll use the Megabass Shaky Head Special spinning rod on the larger jerkbaits because it's a little bit stiffer rod, 7 foot long, a little bit stiffer. It can handle like the 110+1s. And I like to use light line, and that's one of the reasons I use spinning tackle. Is I use 6 to 8 pound test. I'm going to say 75% of the time on my jerkbaits. I'll upgrade to 10 pound test, even sometimes up to 12 at certain times, certain situations if I don't want that bait, if I need that bait to stay shallow, particularly around cover. And like I said, 95% of the time I'm throwing it on a spinning rod, and I will throw it on a bait caster maybe 5% of the time under situations where I need to keep the bait shallow and I'm making shorter casts with it around cover. I'll use that. But I like the 110 with the spinning rod simply because you can do so much more with it. You can make the bait look more alive with it. You can make longer casts. The list goes on and on. That could be another video, but 110 jerkbait, definitely at the top list. And my third favorite lure category would be the Squarebill crankbait, like this Megabass S crank. Now, I don't know if a lot of people know, but the jerkbait and the Squarebill crankbait, they sort of originated here in Southwest Missouri, where I'm from. Back in the early to mid 80s, there was a lot of guns around here, like Terry Thomas, some of the guys that fished the old Redman tournaments that got on these Squarebill bites. And that's before anyone else even knew about it. The old Bagley balsa bees, and then they evolved to different stuff. And now you have the cutting edge technology in the Megabass S crank, which is by far my favorite Squarebill crankbait that there is. And Squarebill crankbaits, they used to be sort of traditionally known for like shallow summertime fishing in dirty water. But with the technology that we've had as far as colors, size, profiles, these have become a 12-month out of the year lure. I literally fish these 12 months out of the year. And it's such an effective bait for covering a lot of water and shallow water. The thing that's really good about a Squarebill crankbait is you can get a bass to bite these for lots of different reasons beyond just hunger. The curiosity, the reflex, competition, that type of stuff. But there's probably not a better bait out there to get a reflex strike than a Squarebill crankbait, moving it really fast around objects. So anyway, my three favorites, I got the jerkbait, Squarebill crankbait, big jig. I probably won as much money in my career overall on these three baits as anything out there. And just wanted to let you all see that, and we'll talk to y'all later.